Disclaimer! For editorial and quality control reasons, I have chosen what questions I will answer today. I hope you all understand. It's nothing against you, it's just the process that I go through. Cheers! What?! Oh, son of a... Hey guys, CreamCrazy here. Welcome to my late August Q&A. I thought to myself, I haven't got any idea for a video this week, so why not do the Q&A which I had to miss out on last week to please some people who of course are telling me, hey, where's the Q&A? Well, guess what? It's here right now. And, well, if you're watching this a while later, it's still here, so hooray! Yeah, the intro didn't go as I expected. There's something going on here, you know, no licensed music or all that. It's something random, but who cares? It's still happening regardless. Now, I got 35 questions, mostly wrestling based and some personal. Then again, I did edit them again, I filtered them through. Again, I said in the disclaimer, I am not doing this to smite some people, I'm just doing it because it means I don't have to worry about making this video go 2.5 hours long like the last one did. Let's get right into it. I've already got a minute done and I'm rambling. Let's go. First off, we have Ranalo asking me, what do you think John Cena has to do to get haters like NJ, Largest, Final Limits, and the controversial and shit Wrestling Jesus to become fans of his and respect him? The one thing I would say is that the only reason I can summarise as to what he would need is either 1, a heel turn, or 2, not being in the main event all the time. Because that's the problem a lot of people have with John Cena. They don't want him, 1, hogging the spotlight, and 2, being a face who wins. I mean, honestly, most faces win, which is obviously one of the reasons why people hate Cena. I mean, if Cena was made believable by losing often when he needs to build up a fight, you know, if his matches don't end by DQ. I mean, sure, Daniel Bryan's recently have ended by DQ, and that's just how it is. You know, John Cena, if he wasn't in the main event, he wasn't a 13-time champion, he was a guy kind of like Dolph Ziggler, who has his moment in the sun, but then has to work his arse off to reach another one of those. You know, if he was like that, people would respect him. If he was an up-and-comer like Cody Rhodes, who has always been close to the spotlight but has never been given that chance. If it was someone like, if he's been built up in a different way, then people would respect him. But the only way I can really see Cena getting respect is at least showing to people that he isn't the top guy of the company and therefore makes it so. Because of his injury, people are going to step up, like Daniel Bryan. Because obviously, now look where he is. You also look at where Cody Rhodes will be after he comes back from his firing. I mean, there are loads of people, how even Ziggler if he doesn't leave at any point because of the pressure under him at the minute. If you think about all those people, they could rise up into that position. They could become big faces. They could take the spotlight away. And also not to mention the fact if Sheamus comes back, what the fuck are they going to do? I mean, seriously, what are they going to do? And also RVD, I mean, with the Alberto Del Rio thing, is he going to rise up any further? As we know, he is a popular face. And to be honest with you, one of the only people who was a part-timer who's now working his arse off every damn week. So you see my point. John Cena winning all the time and being the number 1 is the thing that people don't like about him, and therefore if that changes, they will suddenly go, okay, I have to say that the problem I had with you is now gone. But then people would also say the gimmick is the problem. Well, no, it's because of the placing in the company and what effect that has on the gimmick and what he can do. That's effectively the reason why people do hate him. So basically, if one thing changes, a domino effect will happen and all the problems will go. We already know he is a good wrestler, and honestly, a lot of people who watched the SummerSlam match effectively said, yeah, I may not like the guy, but he wrestled a damn good match there. Even though he didn't sell very well in some occasions, but he did his best for what he could do. So you know what? It's a hard thing to really say, but I've given my answer in that respect. Grey Fox asks me, if you were able to meet John Cena and have a 40-minute talk with him face-to-face, what questions would you ask him? Wow, I'm getting asked to submit questions in a Q&A where I answer them. It's a bit strange, isn't it? Yeah! Nonetheless, if I were able to meet John Cena, I would actually ask him predominantly this question of how he has managed to do what he's done at the top of the company for so long. And I mean, in the regard of how have you been able to keep yourself in prime physical condition, have such an ability to craft out your work schedule as you do? I mean, honestly, if we were in the same position as he was, having to wrestle loads, go to creative meetings, all that stuff, go through to doing charity meetings, interviews, all those kind of things, how would we balance his work life? Because honestly, I know he'd probably say he just has a hard resilience and has a desire to do what's best, but I want to see an in-depth understanding of John Cena and just how he is structured mentally to cope with all the stresses in his life, because it's one of those things, kind of like when JR was talking in his talk and how he basically got us all on a real high by stating that nothing can bring us down and always go for your dreams, which is something fantastic. But I want to see how John Cena can build himself mentally in that regard. It would be interesting to see how he would answer it. The other is also just to go along with the fans. I would say to him that my friends have believed that you being on the top is having a detrimental effect. How would you be able to say to yourself, how would you be able to say to them that you are you spending more time at the top? Are you effectively stating that you're just doing what the management tells you to? Is there an answer that you can give to my friends who may not seem, very, very eye to eye with you? And I think that's good, just to get his answer out about what you guys think, because a lot of my fans, a lot of my subscribers, a lot of my friends, some of them, do say that John Cena is a bad person for the company and it's not very good, but then again, I've always said it's for the business sake that there is a guy making the money, and he'd probably say the same thing, that he's just the guy at the top, and that's just how it is, and people just don't like seeing one person at the top for too long, like they always do. He'd probably say something like that in my honest eyes. And also, to honest respect of how, if he was younger, seeing himself on television, how would he react to seeing him on TV, and how would he get behind John Cena as a character? Because that's one thing about wrestlers, I always think that sometimes they get involved in their own hype, and they basically just, get really, really self-absorbed. I'd love to see what would happen if you could see yourself in your current form on television and go, what would I be? What would I be like as a small kid or an adult getting into the character, and how would I be able to show myself as such? It would be quite interesting to see his answer to that. There'll be a few more, but I can't really think of them off the top of my head right now. Next question from Grey Fox is, this is quite a cool one, the same question as the Cena talk, but applied to Hulk Hogan instead. Good, I would have a lot of time slaughtering Hogan on this. Not really slaughtering him per se, but just basically giving him the questions I think everybody really wants to answer. 1. Do you believe that you entering TNA has caused them to have problems rather than successes? Even though he's... I mentioned earlier, actually even just now, about the fact that some wrestlers have become self-absorbed and only really care about themselves and their successes. Hulk Hogan especially. Most interviews I see is mostly hyping himself up rather than hyping TNA up. Especially when he had that interview with 5 Minutes on the BBC, and he also had his talk with Patrick Lennon of Wrestle Talk and The Sun. Oh, not Sun, the Daily Star, sorry. The fact of the matter is, Hogan, I want him to say, look, don't keep hyping yourself up. We know how big you are. I just want to say, do you honestly think that hyping yourself up in such a way puts everyone else further down? Because you mention all the time that there are some great young guys in there, and how, Hulk Hogan's there, he did all this, and it makes them feel really good to be underneath the guise of such a legend. But then again, if you're also at the top of the company, pushing them down, making sure that James Storm Bobby Roode wasn't ready to win the title, he then wins the title shortly after James Storm wins it. It makes it look like that you're not really doing what's right for the company, And also, I would actually ask him, how did it feel to get booed out of the building when forming the NWO? Because everyone wants to know, everyone says, it's a great moment in wrestling history, but I would also say, being there, how did it feel? Because I bet you were probably not expecting that reaction. Although, also, he was on his way to the event at the time it was going on. So I would also like to say, what was going through your mind thinking, fuck, if this plane has a delay or something, I'm screwed. I mean, what pressures were going through your mind at the time? And also, I would actually like to ask him this, because I know in Japan his work is actually a lot better than it was in the US. And I want to say to him, going from Japan and the AWA to the WWF, and then becoming the figurehead of not just the biggest company in the business, but the industry as a whole, and like I said for Cena, how did you weigh those pressures on your back and keep them at bay without resorting you to crack. Because that's the one thing I've always said it for Cena. I like wanting to understand how wrestlers' mindsets are built together, because due to the concussions and all the logistics they've got to work out in the ring to be able to make the matches work, it's something that I've always been interested in. I've always wanted to ask quite a few wrestlers, even in the British indie scene, how they can basically keep their mind at ease and put things together and make it very easy to make their work so fleshed out and so crisp to do. Even though I would also say, must hurt you a lot when you botch something. And I'm saying to them, like, how do you recover from the negative effect on that mind it would give you? Similar kind of thing. And also wondering how, holy shit, how you managed to kick out of Andre when the first body slam attempt failed, because that must have been damn hard. Telling you now, that would have been. The one last question I would like to ask is, does he feel that he should step out of the limelight for a while, and at least not be involved? Because a lot of people have asked him that question. I want to ask him that question. In fact, I believe he should. So that'll be something quite interesting to say, well, look, you've been here all the time, you're hyping yourself up, you're pushing yourself forward. Why are you still here if you're not actively contributing? If you've got back and leg injuries, and you are having troubles in your personal life that you've had for many years, and it's too much stress to be on TV with all that, why are you still here? You know, I want to compound and ask Hulk Hogan, why is he still around? You know, because even though wrestling is in his blood, he doesn't always have to be in it, you know. That's one thing I've always noted. Ric Flair, for example, he's in pieces, and he obviously is having a few problems. He isn't there in the limelight anymore for the moment. And if he is in the limelight, it just takes away from the people, aka Miz or Cesaro, when he was in their gimmicks for. So, you know, to me, it's more of a question of why Hulk Hogan is still here, why do we have to really care, etc, etc, etc. Right, next question was, from Cranlow Ranalow. What would you think if Cena returned with the Super Cena persona instead of his current gimmick? Now, I quite like this, because it would be another twist in the arm of the Smarks, who believe they know that Cena sucks, you know? Who, of course, the heel turn shit, you know? That's the kind of thing that the Smarks don't like. They don't like it that John Cena is basically taking what their insults they're chucking at him, or what demands they're chucking at him, and he's basically making fun of them. And that's one of the things I do like John Cena. He can turn the hatred into something hilarious. And I think this would be quite funny, as a comic routine. Hell, I would imagine 1 year when Halloween comes round and they've got an episode of Raw or SmackDown, Cena would come dressed as Superman just to piss the Smarks off. It would be fun, wouldn't it? I would find that quite funny, actually. Because that would just be what the fans are just going, what the yep, I'm Super Cena. You guys got me. You got me. You call me that? Ryback called me that? Look at me. I'm right here. It would mean all those memes have now become reality, and it would be quite fun to see, really. Another piece of comedic work done right by WWE, in my opinion. Oh god, I really should have got a bloody drink of water before I came up here. I'm now going to regret it. John Kunked. Good thing you put a K in there, I said last time. Do you believe Cena has taken steroids and lied about it plenty over the last 11 years? The fact of the matter is, the one thing I can lay down with John Cena is that he has not taken steroids. I mean, if you've looked at his DVDs, he works out like mad. Have you seen? I've seen it countless times. Have you seen how much weights he fucking lifts? And not to mention the fact that if he did and then was found out to lie about it, WWE couldn't cover it up because they have their regular drug tests across the entire roster from top to bottom. You know, they couldn't cover that up. Because then John would have to find a way of blanking out the stuff from his system, and technically you can't do that. Because that's also against the rules. So, you know, he's also too morally high of a person to do anything like that as well. Not to mention the idea of the fact that the people would go, whoa, biggest guy in the company has steroids, kill! And it would just, the public backlash, as I've mentioned countless times before, would be problematic and very bad for business, to quote Triple H in the opposite. But yeah, honestly, obviously he looks well built, but there's a reason why he's looked well built over the years. One, he had to bulk up because he had a higher work schedule due to his rise to going into the main event scene. Because obviously, if you are wrestling more, your body will obviously go through more punishment, and therefore you have to be conditioned enough to be able to go and do that work schedule a lot. Then, not to mention the fact he's had injuries on his neck, his pectora, and his, of course, elbow. So honestly, he's had to bulk up to mask over the possible pain that those injuries can cause him in the ring when taking bumps. So, I can honestly say, if Cena has been taking steroids and it comes out as such, I will put my hands up and say, wow, I defended this guy. That's a bad idea. But obviously it hasn't. So I'm just stating things on how I see it, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Next, we have Roy Poon, who asks, what did you think of the fans cheering Cena when he mentioned that he was taking some time off due to his football elbow injury? Was it disrespectful, or did he deserve it? Hell no, he didn't deserve it. It's just the smarks just being smarks, you know? The smarks will only cheer when that happens. Every time something else happens that they want, they will throw it aside and won't bother, apart from complaining, you know? If anything happens that they want, they'll complain, oh my god, it wasn't done right. It wasn't done right. Or heel turn. It wasn't done right at all. We should have had Daniel Bryan lose. And hold on a second. You got what you want. Daniel Bryan won the title, and you got a Randy Orton heel turn at the same fucking time. And then you got Cena leaving properly. Because you could tell it was too bad. People were even saying, oh, he's still, even though with his arm bandaged up, he's still going to appear on next week's Raw. He wasn't. See, that's the thing. That was one of the only times I actually saw IWC Smarks happy for something. But the problem is, I bet some of them were thinking at the time, I may be cheering right now, but he might appear on Raw next week. He didn't, which actually made them pissed off, because now they're saying the ratings are declining. And they say, oh, Cena, we need Cena back so the ratings are better. Wow, so you wanted Cena to leave, yet you want him back so the ratings appear better, so you can be more positive about the driven nature of the company? Sometimes I know my end credit says that I am part of the YWC, but sometimes or the IWC or whatever, I just consider myself a person who analyzes it. I know because I'm on the internet, I make videos, I'm part of this. But hold on a second, I don't consider myself part of that YWC, IWC way of analysing things. I try and analyse things as professionally as I can for being a fanalist, as I am. I don't, go along with the IWC hate trains, and you guys know that. I was going, you know what, Cena, you've done a great job. Well done. You need a break, because that injury looks fucking ridiculous, and the fact that you wrestled through a match with it, well done to you. See, I was positive in one regard, because now Cena can come back stronger and better than ever. And that's a good thing, because a good, positive Cena is a good thing for storylines. A strong John Cena is good for storylines, and that's good, because it needs someone to go against some heels who look unstoppable. I mean, hell, Daniel Bryan will eventually kick Orton's ass, and some others will too. Cody. They will do it, but it will be cool to see where John Cena fits in at the end of the day when he does return. I'm looking to see what they do, because I'm wondering, and it's like a tower system. Where do you filter him in? And I want to see that. So people who say, oh, John Cena's gone, yes! You had your moment in the sun, and the fact that some of you want him back now because people like Sheamus are gone, and other people who are big names are not there, and you think WWE is shit because they're gone, fuck yourself, because you're just contradicting yourself again, and it just keeps happening every time. Right. Leon Pasquiote asks, if Cena was around in the Monday Night Wars, would WCW convince him to join them, or would he be loyal and stay with what would have been then the WWF? I would think he would stay, because John Cena, of course, he grew up in the developmental system from 2000 to 2002 when WWF was around. He obviously had a big tie to these guys, he watched them on television a lot as a kid, and he obviously was living out a dream. So I don't think, even with the money, he's one of those guys in the back who I would always think is so dedicated to one company, one thing. He would never go to WCW. Even though he would probably be being paid a shit ton of money like he is now in WWE at this current time, it wouldn't have made him want to go. Honestly, because actually, you know what? If you guys know how fucked up WCW was at the time, I don't think he would want to go to a sinking ship trying to resurrect things. Because hell, if Scott Steiner and Booker T couldn't do it, no one could. Yeah. Okay, Shiroro Harura asks, what if Cena, Sheamus, Orton and Miz all turn heel in one night? How would the fans and me react? Well, honestly, we'd all be quite shocked, because it's rare seeing multiple heel turns in one evening. I mean, honestly, you don't even see multiple face turns in one evening as well. It's very rare to see en masse a shift. Now, what I would love to see is actually some big guys in the top of the company turn heel and then make a faction together. Because I really was expecting, if anything was going to happen in a big faction, to see that happen. I mean, obviously with Orton and the corporation at the top, that was kind of like that, because you saw Triple H turn heel, Orton solidify his heel turn, and then McMahon was already technically heel, and Stephanie McMahon was on the borderline tweener, and the Shield, they were already heel anyway. So combine all that together, it almost happened, but it only happened on a consecutive night basis, you know, it wasn't a full-on swerve in one evening. You know, I want to see a group of heels become heel and then effectively take over the company and storm it in one evening, you know. But it's not going to happen because it'll take a lot of work to build up 4 or 5 people to fill the spots that they've now vacated on the other side of the spectrum. So it would be challenging, but I would see how it goes. But I would react to seeing all 4 of those turn heel. I would be happy to see them all heel. I would be thinking, fuck. It would also give me a question of wondering, who is going to rise up? That's the pivotal question. Those guys. We got Orton, Sheamus, and Cena, 3 of the biggest guys, and Miz. Pretty much the most authentic, legitimate heel in terms of personality that WWE has had in quite some time. And the fact of the matter is, who would fill those spots? Who would become faces in their absences? Who knows? Just saying. And also, because Orton, this question was asked before Orton's heel term was officially solidified, so that's probably why it was mentioned. Yeah. Right, Leon Pasquiote again. When Cena returns from injury, will he be burying the roster again, and be the centre of attention, and take the spotlight away from Daniel Bryan? Well, I've already mentioned I'm unsure where Cena would fit into all this. Because obviously he hasn't been affected by the McMahon-Helmsley Corporation 2.0 and their rules. I mean, I honestly, I've said this in my blog post that I put up on I think Friday or Saturday night about Cody Rhodes, and he will be right up there with Daniel Bryan against corporate injustice when he gets rehired, because obviously I'm guessing someone from the board of directors is going to have to realise this is a ridiculous idea that the McMahons and Triple H are doing. We need to have some balance here, and they get someone in to be that balance, and then Cody Rhodes comes back, boom, in with those 2 at the top of the mountain. We've also got people like Ziggler and RVD's recently being bullied by them. You know, basically faces are being bullied. Eventually, after the Heyman shit is done with, this will affect CM Punk as well. So you're wondering, what the fuck's CM Punk gonna do? He's been anti-authority since his entire career kicked off. But you see what I mean? Where would John Cena fit in all that? Because Daniel Bryan is now so big, in that he's popular with all sectors of the audience, he would be the figurehead. John Cena would be under this kid. He would be under Daniel Bryan. He would not be able to get up to where Daniel Bryan is in terms of fan response. And positive fan response. Obviously, so for example, I have to stress this as an example, I would love it if the corporate stable brought in Ryback as an extra line of defense. Because then, you of course still have, that's one thing, okay, Cena versus Ryback wasn't the most successful feud. But then again, you need someone of equal stature to go and whoop Ryback's ass. Why not make it Cena again? Or why not even have Sheamus go against Ryback for the first time, and then have Cena go against Triple H, who he's had many feuds with, and then have everyone else just pick everyone else piece by piece, you know? Cena would be in there, but I'm not sure where he'd be. He wouldn't be burying the roster, because Cena never has buried the roster. It's all about booking, and the problem with WWE's booking is they make one guy look strong and one guy look weak without trying to understand the consequences of it. That, to me, is not burial. Burial, these guys have gimmicks. They lose to Cena. They then have to fight their way back from the bottom ladder up, like all competitors have to. That's where Cena is going to have to do when he returns. He's going to have to fight from the bottom up to be in the title picture again. And probably Cena versus Orton is a likely possibility when Cody and Daniel Bryan are done. Say, for example, a main event area of Survivor Series or Royal Rumble or something. You know, to tap up a big match for this. You know, that's something I could see happening. But honestly, I don't think he will take the spotlight from anyone. He won't hog the centre of attention. He will not be burying anyone, because if he's burying anyone, it's probably going to be a really low down heel, like 3MB or something. Because that's what a burial is, people. Get it right. Get your terminology straight. Where am I now? Kimari Ronso asks, have you seen the Benoit versus Kevin Sullivan 2 out of 3 Falls match from the Great American Bash in 1996? It's been a long time since I've watched that match. So I think it was either on the Benoit DVD, and if not, I probably spotted it on some kind of anthology somewhere. I haven't watched it in a while, but I remember it being pretty damn good. So I'd probably have to check it out again, because I recently checked out the matches that Malenko and Benoit had. Fuck me, they're good matches. And yeah, I need to watch that again, because you know me, I'm still a Benoit fan. I enjoy the matches. I'll go for it. Speaking of Benoit, Kazuya Mishima, gotta make sure I pronounce that right, otherwise I'm gonna go to shit for it. Which Benoit theme did you prefer? His first one, or the one he used upon his 2002 return? So you're saying to me, do I prefer Shooter, the one which is on WWE Anthology's Attitude Era disc, and the Whatever theme from Forcible Entry, used until his unfortunate and tragic controversial demise, obviously? I do prefer Whatever, because the lyrics and the harder and rockier edge to it just sparks a part of me that goes, yeah, I'm here for some ass kicking now. Benoit's in the place. But Shooter was, even though it lacked lyrics, it gave off that intensity without actually having to do much. A simple riff, simple melody. It wasn't the best theme song in the world, but it did its job. But I think overall, as a theme, I've always preferred Whatever. And you did mention I'm probably going to go to hell now for liking this theme. You don't need to worry about it. It's a fantastic song as well as a fantastic theme tune. You know? I love it. It's a great song. And for years, it was one of my favourites. And probably still is, even though some newer ones have overtaken its position. So, yeah. That's how it goes. I really enjoyed that theme. I'm quite happy he didn't change it after all, so everyone else was kind of slowly changing theirs over the years. But yeah, it was good to see. Right. King Romeo asks, do you think Chris Benoit is super overrated to the internet smarks, just like Daniel Bryan is? Now, both of these guys are very similar, obviously. Benoit and Bryan are technical wrestlers with a lot of intensity. They are very submission-based and have very good strikes to their name. Both of them, and they're very good psychologists in the ring too. Those two are very similar, and I can see why people love Daniel Bryan, because it's the same kind of wrestler Benoit was. But obviously, when you say, is Benoit super overrated to the smarks in nowadays terms, I would say no. But even though he is high, and still is to some, highly regarded as one of the best wrestlers of all time, and in fact, he still is despite what happened. What happened effectively made internet smarks go, while I respect Benoit for his in-ring work, what he did taints it. And that's what most people can say the same. Some would say, that just taints it to the point where I don't give a shit. I don't care about Benoit. And that's the thing. Back when Benoit was wrestling, hell yes, I can say that was definitive truth. That Benoit was over in the mark territory. Nowadays, it's on the fence, really. But also, the fact of the matter is, Daniel Bryan hasn't really got any haters. Benoit had a lot of problems with people saying, oh, he's uncharismatic, he's never going to make it to the top of the mountain. And the fact that he did, it's like, oh my god, this guy in a main event promo sucks. Why is he there? And Daniel Bryan hasn't had any of that negativity. The only negativity Bryan's really had is the fact that he loses every now and again. And gets beaten up a lot, and is made fun of and ridiculed. Daniel Bryan hasn't gotten any real negative response from anyone since he entered the WWE, and in fact in his Ring of Honor in Japanese days, he was untouchable. So, the fact of the matter is, Daniel Bryan hasn't got any negatives which can be thrown at him, while Benoit did have that. And in fact, since his tragedy, and the entire murder-suicide, there's even more shit to throw at Benoit. So, Benoit back in the day, I would say, would have been a bit overrated, but then Daniel Bryan is also overrated to the hills because he has no negativity on his side. You know, that's just how it is. Some people may think that Benoit and Bryan weren't good wrestlers because they can't speak very well, fuck it. The in-ring stuff is what matters, and how they were able to build matches and build storylines of what they did. That's what's important. Mic work, while it is useful, is not the definition of what is a good wrestler. That's why Rock is not up there for me. His in-ring work was a bit bleh, while his mic work was pretty good. So that's how I've always mentioned it, that's how I've always said it, and there we go. Largest 85, but you were wondering when your first question was going to pop up. What do you think of the Katie Vick storyline? People say it was really bad, but was it really? Is it really as bad compared to the rubbish booking that we see nowadays? Now, Katie Vick was one of the first wrestling storylines I ever actually saw, so that's really bad for me. Because when I got into wrestling round this time, I really just kind of took the storyline for legitimacy's sake and believed the kayfabe, so to speak. So I was really at the time going, ugh, disgusting, ugh, Kane. But then, of course, we felt sorry for him because Triple H is being a dick in the process, and the fact that he fabricated the whole thing makes you want to punch Triple H in the face for going that far. But obviously now the smart attitude of me, or the analyst of me over the years, I've become more critical. I look at the Katie Vick storyline and go, oh god, I don't like watching this, and I don't like watching it. The reason why it was so bad is because it was just really tasteless melodrama. I mean, no, seriously, after all the shit that WWE threw at us in the mid to late 2002, from HLA to Rikishi doing such, to the Billy and Chuck wedding crap that Glad ended up throwing shit at the wall for. I mean, just the idea that this, and not so much what they've done before in the Kennel from Hell crap. I mean, some of the, and also Austin flipping off and just going home and all that shit. 2002, while it had some gems and some utter precious stones in there, was really full of some crap. And this scraped the bottom of the barrel for a reason. It tested morality. It tested taste of their viewers. It tested the moral capacity of every member of the audience inside the fandom and outside it. It was so negative. I can't even believe it. The fact of the matter is, this was appalling. The fact that it was also so fake and so... It didn't even tie up the loose ends properly. It just made Triple H look even more of a heel to it. People hated it because Kane never got the chance to actually, get his comeuppance on Triple H. Because the negative stigma from that storyline was so severe, they cancelled it after a month. Okay, sure, they could have cancelled it after 1 week or 2 weeks, but no, they kept it going until the pay-per-view, and then they didn't even bother mentioning it again. They ended it prematurely, and okay, I am not saying I would want it to have continued, but I would have wanted Kane to win the damn title out of it. To show that even with all this on his back, and it was proven to be wrong, he could rise up against the problems and win the title, like he was supposed to. Him and RVD were having a fucking good year. And then that just happens, I mean, also, you compare it to now, I am so happy we do not get this kind of storyline now. This is one of the reasons why I am happy we are not elite. Okay, I'm not pro-censorship and programming control by any means, but if it's to stop shit like that appearing on television, then that's fine. And the fact of the matter is, you say we have rubbish booking nowadays, weekly? This was cancelled after a month. The build of it was stopped. The entire resolution was quashed, and we got something that, one, ruined Kane for at least a couple of years until he got back to WrestleMania 20 area. Until that, we really weren't sure what was going to happen with Kane. Until his unmasking, which took nearly half a year to recover from, there was nothing for Kane to do. And he hasn't fully recovered from it because he mentioned it in the bloody anger management segment. It's still part of his career that he has to live with. And not to mention all the storylines he's been involved with, which have been complete horseshit. I mean, the booking was rushed through because people were so negative. There's nothing like that today. At the moment, there hasn't been a storyline so poor that they've crushed it after a week or two or a month. They haven't done that, have they? So you can't really say that it's that bad. I mean, if you think it's that bad, you've got your own opinion to say so. But in my eyes, nothing goes on today's programming. Now, how rubbish it may be to some, whatever reach, how rubbish the Katie Vick storyline was. And I am so happy. I do not want to see it ever again. I do not want to see anything relating to it or something even similar to it. I don't want to see it again. And it's just awful. Awful, awful, awful. Speaking of weird things that some people might find awful, Zhao asks, what did you think of Goldust when he first appeared in 1995 up until his last appearance in WWE? Now, Goldust I always thought was a very good wrestler who managed to make his gimmick become part of how his wrestling persona played out, and how in the ring, moves like Shattered Dreams kind of played into his warped percentage of how to interact with people in the ring by wrestling. I thought that Goldust as a gimmick is incredibly unique. And no matter how much Cody Rhodes slammed it in what could have been a shoot promo last week, who knows? But I find that you do, obviously, where the hell would Dustin Runnels be if it wasn't for Goldust? He made the gimmick his own, made it largely successful, and one of the most famous gimmicks that WWE have pulled out. I mean, while it was mildly disturbing at times to some and myself, it was still a very funny and very random gimmick that you could just pull in any direction. You could take it anywhere and just experiment with it. I mean, we had him and Booker T in one of the most hilarious tag teams I've seen. And not to mention, when you remember in NXT when he was fighting over Ted DiBiase for the $1 Million title? Yeah. When he was on Superstars fighting for that as well, and how he basically lost it over a title that replicated himself in terms of sheen, shine, and gold lust. You know what I mean? It just... The character is so diverse of what you can do with it. I mean, now, they're obviously going to try... I mean, they've played in the idea that, of course, they know that Cody Rhodes and Dustin Runnels are brothers. That's the thing. They now have mentioned that Cody and Goldust are brothers, and that makes it even more. They're taking it from a pure... fantasized fictional creation into something real. And that's brilliant, because now you see what I mean. This gimmick can go anywhere, and they've modified it countless times. I'm irritated that Goldust went to WCW in the main heyday of the Attitude Era. Because, okay, we got Sexual Chocolate, as we know, and we got the Mae Young Handbirth, which was an abomination upon storyline and feuding lore. But imagine what Goldust would have done. Imagine what Goldust would have done if he was in WWF in the Attitude Era. How random do you think he would have gotten? I mean, imagine him and Mark... I'm not even going there. You see my point? That the ideas of what Goldust could have done, going up against a person like Val Venus when he was in his prime at the WWF in the high time of his gimmick. The ass man Billy Gunn. The weird shit that could have come out of that. I mean, it just makes sense, doesn't it, that these things could have happened and it could have been brilliant. But Goldust, I found, is a good gimmick with a good wrestler in tow. Because every time, even though the gimmick is weird as fuck, the wrestling ability, pretty damn good. Psychologically, it worked even better. So, I've always been a fan of Goldust, but not a massive fan. I've respected him for taking such a gimmick and making it a success, and for showcasing good wrestling ability within it. But I've never thought it could have gotten anywhere more than a mid-card area, and it never did. So, yeah, I would have liked to have seen Goldust win something higher up, but... these things happen. Real Old Harold asks, what did you think of Rey Mysterio when he debuted in 2002? Now, of course, remember, I started watching around the time that Rey Mysterio did debut. Well, actually, I remember watching it, and then, of course, because I wasn't fully into it, I didn't even watch wrestling for months after before I realised, oh, this is where The Rock is, and all that stuff. So, Rey Mysterio, when he debuted, I really enjoyed him. Because he was one, fast, second, didn't speak, and third... he was in tag teams with Edge and people like that. And the fact of the matter is, he was just doing cruiserweight stuff. Which is exactly what I enjoyed from Rey Mysterio. I don't like the entire underdog crap. Because I liked Rey Mysterio being in the cruiserweight division, doing what he did best. And that's good enough. Rey Mysterio when he debuted, especially the match against SummerSlam with Kurt Angle. Oh, that's brilliant. Honestly... it was one of the best opening matches to a pay-per-view, and simply one of the best fastest matches I've ever seen on WWE programming. That was one of the quickest, one of the most crisply done matches I have seen, and if you haven't seen it, go see it, because it's beautiful. Honestly, guys, Rey Mysterio, when he debuted, I was a fan, but then as the years have gone on, I was like, this is not good. Then again, I've never really been a big fan of Mysterio, because that was more my brother than me, personally. Right, where are we now? Shiroro Harura asks, what if Nature Girl 30 made her debut in a Divas Battle Royal for the Divas Championship and won it? How would I react, as she's my friend on YouTube and on Facebook? I would be really surprised first, then overjoyed, and then legitimately thinking to myself, holy crap, what are they going to do to book this? How would WWE book Nature Girl 30 in this scenario? You know, I would think to myself, would she be that diva where she basically mouth off on all the negatives of the Divas division? Okay, AJ was mouthing off on how the Total Divas cast are basically full of bull. Imagine Nature Girl 30 going off on a similar stream about how the entire state of women's wrestling needs to be improved, let alone the WWE. And imagine, well, her just going off on that full, highlighting good women's wrestling and proving a dominance. That's how I would see it anyway. But then again, I have no idea if Nature Girl 30 could technically wrestle. I mean, yeah, she'd have a big aggressive attitude and have intensity to the match. Fights. There we go. I think it would be quite fun, actually. Because also, the IWC and the YWC would go, fuck, there's one of us there. One of us is in the ring and they can make change. And they would be so happy about it. You know, I could see the fan just going, new diva at the top, yes. But then again, I think Nature Girl 30 would discount the tag of diva as well. On top of all that. And just completely go on as a renegade against it all. Hey, her and Paige, she is the anti-diva, of course. That would make some sense, right? It would, wouldn't it? Speaking of divas, Real Old Harold asks, what do you think of Total Divas on E? I don't really want to say anything about it. I hate it, personally. I saw a clip of it, just to give myself a taster of what it was like. 5 minutes in, I shut it off. You know why? Because Total Divas is like what most reality TV is, and it is like what most rubbish television is. It's questioning your intelligence to the point where you think you're watching it and thinking, there's no reason behind it all. It's just you can't replicate real life under scripted circumstances. Okay, that is not possible. You can't script something and pass it off as reality because you can see through it. Because shit acting is shit acting whichever way you want to think. And the fact of the matter is, Total Divas is just like the Jersey Shore, The Only Way is Essex, Geordie Shore, The Valleys, all those rubbish programs that I see on TV. I am a person who likes smart entertainment, okay? I want entertainment that tests my knowledge, that tests my brain, that tests my way to invest into a story, that has compelling things on it, that we go, I lose my perception of when it's a fake program and realise, you know what, I'm actually getting fully into this. Too bad not many programs have done that for me. And this is the problem with reality television. The only reality TV I look at is I'm a Celebrity, and I don't take it seriously one bit. I am laughing sometimes, because it's actually one thing that makes you go, you know, I can spend a night from 9 till 10 p.m. watching this, and that'll give me something to watch on television, you know? So I neglect television, because I mostly just watch repeats of comedy shows. I don't really find anything on TV that really piques my interest outside of some decent documentary programs. But I want to say to people, look, don't watch this crap. Don't watch this scripted reality TV shit. If you watch this, okay, some people will say it's a guilty pleasure, and you can say, I watch it just to basically flush my brain of all the shit that's in there and pin it on that's where all the shit comes from as a way of bantering an argument. That's fine, because it's simple. What anyone would do is to watch, like Adam Hills said, sit down, watch reality TV and just rip on it for the best part of 2 hours. You watch all the way through, you're just ripping the shit out of it for the good reason of the fact that it's shit television. It's brilliant. I mean, I would do that if I actually wanted to waste my time on it, but I don't. So, yeah. Total Divas is just like most other reality TV programs out there that sucks. And I would have wanted to see a Divas wrestling show. That I would have rather have seen. I would have rather have seen a show where the divas actually are shown to be on equal playing field with their male counterparts. But that's never going to happen, because even though we in this world stand for equality, it never happens in this business. So you know what? Screw it. It's not going to happen. Things suck, don't they? Okay. Large 85, what did you think of Chris Nowinski's Harvard gimmick? Do you also feel that he could have teamed up with another college jock like Alex Riley, since they were both cocky heels? The thing about Chris Nowinski was, I always found his in-ring ability to be slightly off. He was, I don't know, more gimmick than he was in-ring ability. Because that was what he was known for, being the first Harvard graduate to be in wrestling, let alone WWE. And I thought, you know what, okay, the guy could wrestle alright, but obviously he didn't make too much of a splash in my eyes. I didn't really find him that interesting. I mean, teaming him up with Alex Riley would be something interesting, because he did portray a college jock. I agree, that's a good idea. But David Otunga as a Harvard alumnus in his own right, and still is doing law things outside as well as acting and various stuff, that'll be better. Because both of them, who are stuck up, believe they're bigger than everyone else because they graduated out of the biggest school in the world. It would be perfect, you know? Just to see them two together would be great as a tag team. Not to mention they'd be very similar in body, mate. Although Chris Nowinski was not the perfection of body. He did not look very good when you look at Otunga, you go, how the fuck is he doing that? Same thing with Chris Masters at the same time, but Chris Masters didn't graduate, so it wouldn't have worked. But either way, Nowinski and Otunga would have been good, I would have thought. Final limits. Will Sting ever go to the WWE to face The Undertaker in a retirement match and be inducted in the Hall of Fame? If so, what year do you see this all taking place? Now, I haven't been watching TNA a lot recently, but I know that Sting ain't on TV. Is he with them or not? Has his contract expired? What? The thing with Sting is he realises that the time is closing in on his career. He hasn't got long left. And the fact of the matter is, he has said countless times he has been so close to signing the deal that will take him to WrestleMania to face Taker in the match we all want to see. And the fact of the matter is, he will want to go into the Hall of Fame he would want to be the one guy who didn't work for WWE after WCW went to finally do it. To finally do that would be something that will basically be something so beneficial for the wrestling industry and for us fans, it would make us actually happy for once. You know? Or many of us would be happy for once. I'm actually kind of happy about wrestling generally. But you see, when do I see this taking place? I am hoping it's 2014. If it isn't 2014, do it in 2015. You know why? Because imagine packing Cowboy Stadium for that. Or packing Cowboy Stadium for Austin versus Punk. Technically, you could put both on the card and have a double main event that way. I think 2015 will be the best time. If not, do it this year, for the love of God. Do it this year. Because if Sting is leaving TNA, and AJ Styles comes in after, and TNA starts seeing an exodus, have Sting be an instigator to that. Have Sting be an instigator to TNA's exodus of good talent while their booking is crap. Makes sense, folks. I want to see it soon, though. I want to see it happen. It probably will happen. Just we don't know when. I'm thinking soon. Next 2 years, tops. If it doesn't happen, that's going to be quite bad. I'm running out of breath already. Fucking hell. Nintendo Fanboy 1988. How would the Wyatt family work if they debuted in the Attitude Era? Would they be doing scarier and more sadistic shit due to TV-14? Oh, they would. You know what? I've always said to myself while watching the Wyatt family that I don't really know what they're doing. I mean, they're spouting stuff. They're obviously some kind of cult, and they've referred to a lot of their problems, a lot of the weird things that happen. Haven't we done anything? Now, I would think, being a cult in 1998, 99, 2000, they would have to obviously compete with the Ministry of Darkness. They were probably part of it. If it wasn't, Gangrel, Viscera, people like that, it would be the Wyatt family. You know why? Because they are fucked up. And that's the brilliant thing about it. They would fit into the Ministry's mantra of just doing random, sadistic, crazy fucking shit. They would be terrorizing people. Doing what the Ministry did with Stephanie. Holding up on a cross. And putting Stone Cold on a cross, trying to embalm him. Things like that. They would be doing shit like that. But a lot worse. They'd be trying to brainwash people a la Clockwork Orange. That's one thing I was expecting. I keep thinking that Bray Wyatt is going to have to capture somebody and then strap him up into that chair and brainwash him. I mean, or something fucked up. That's one thing I am waiting for the Wyatt family to come out of that shell of attacking people and state their reason for why they are so fucked up in the brain. One face will one day question Bray Wyatt, but in the Attitude Era, you wouldn't need to question it because it would all be out there because they'd have freedom to express themselves and whatever they wanted to do. Yeah, that's how I see it anyway, just to say. Right, Roy Poon asks, do you think the Usos look more like Rikishi or The Rock? Obviously, they've got the wide expressioned faces of The Rock, which obviously states because he's in their blood, but Rikishi is their father. So therefore, they look like they're him, because it has to be done. They have to look like Rikishi. If they don't, then something's wrong with the fucking gene pool. Just saying. Nintendo Fanboy 1988. What did you think of Matt Morgan's stuttering gimmick from 2005? I found it very difficult to watch, actually, because obviously, looking back, I obviously know nowadays that Matt Morgan is a great wrestling talent, and he does a lot of what he can to be really quite polished in the ring, and his mic work is quite good. I know he did put a lot of dedication into making that stuttering gimmick work, which I had to tip my hat off for him for, but it was just very hard to watch. I mean, even me, at the age of 13, 14, 11, 12, 13, 14, roughly around those edges, it was really difficult, because I like clear-spoken people. And that's no slander against those with a stutter. I just, when it's on television, I feel really nervous as much as they do that I'm having to wait to hear something. I know it sounds a lot worse than it does, but they can clearly speak. It's only when they get nervous, like Gareth Gates was in the first UK pop idol, that it obviously caused nervous stutters to appear. Matt Morgan's stutter was just offset by him speaking, and it didn't seem natural. From that standpoint, you know, how people can get nervous and they stutter, or when people have Tourette's, it'll just come out of the random... Okay, sure, they probably did it that way, where people with Tourette's randomly swear. It's like when obviously Matt Morgan went into it, he stuttered at random moments to create effect for something. But it didn't create any effect at all, did it? People just laughed at it and didn't take it seriously because he was a good, big, giant wrestler. And it didn't really do him any favours. You know, I wasn't a big fan of the gimmick. I'm happy in TNA he's at least made something for himself. But I'm hoping if he does leave TNA, comes to WWE and tears up the place. I mean, him and Ryback in a team? That'd be cool. Leon Pasquiote says, if the current roster from now was around back in the 90s, who would you see jumping from the WWF to WCW, and who would you see WWE wanting to get from WCW? So you're basically saying to me, who of the current roster would WCW want, and then who would WWE want from the roster of WWE current guys who were in then? That's a decent question. I am guessing some of these guys who would jump from WWF to WCW, I would definitely see people like Cody Rhodes would have gone to WCW because his dad was there. That would make perfect sense. He would probably get paid a shit ton not to do much for the first lot. I would see them if Sheamus is in WCW. He would want to be taken to WWE because of the look and his mic work abilities after that. Plus, having no Irish guys in the ring, pretty good. I would think, not necessarily on the cruiserweight level, if Justin Gabriel and Tyson Kidd and people like that were in WCW, WWE would get them because of how the cruiserweight division was put forward. They would obviously try WCW. Obviously, I've said that John Cena would not leave, but Orton I would definitely see going to WCW in those days because he likes some madness, and there are some others. I mean, Miz, I would probably have said would have gone to WCW, even though he was a WWF kid. I would have said if he was in WWF at the time, he would have jumped ship. He would have. Dolph Ziggler would have jumped ship because he, again, in the moment, he's saying, he's speaking off tongue. We don't like that. Management pushes them down. You know what? I can go, and they're pushing me down, not giving me anything. I can go to WCW, be at the top of the card, and everything will be fine. I would even, I wouldn't see the Shield. I would see the Shield going from WCW to WWE, mostly because, well, technically, it would be good to see one faction being completely crushed by the spin-offs of the NWO. They think, fuck it, I'm going like the Radicals did, going from one company to another for different various reasons. because they're all going to have different reasons. Like Dean Ambrose, where would he fit in? Well, Roman Reigns would probably be going against Goldberg, but wouldn't be able to do much else, losing all the time to someone that strong, because Kevin Nash only got the best up. You know, it's a hard question to really answer properly, but yeah, I think I got the gist of where you're going with. Next, we have King Romeo asking, do you think fans like the Lexman are what are killing pro wrestling with their constant bitching about the business? Also, do you think he's a hypocrite for telling everyone to stop bitching when he does it 24/7? Now, I've mentioned countless times, I like the Lexman, I like his opinions. The one thing I will say, him and good mic work are examples of where YouTubers are analysing the business well. Same can also be said for the British Fist. Those guys analyse, okay, sure, you've got the business side in Dan Parkin, you've got the IWC fan side in NJ. And I hope that's pretty much bang on, guys. And even I would say Nature Girl 30 in her analysis as well. They're the people who I would say do this and do it damn well. Okay, there are probably some others I've missed, but then again, my YouTube subscription feed gets bombarded with some other bigger channels. It's hard to really pick out which ones are wrestling ones or not. In fact, the only other wrestling one a couple of other wrestling ones I watch regularly, the Off the Rope show analyse it superbly. But and that's, you know what I mean? The people like that often do the right thing in some, and one thing they often do is state things from a business perspective, and that's one of the reasons why these people have got a lot of good following to them, because these people don't do things like most other IWC people, because these guys think about why things are being done, like I do. I mean, it may seem like I'm bitching, but I'm only going through analysis and pinpointing positives and negatives and progression standpoints. That's all I really do. I have an opinion on something, but I don't say I'm going to bitch about it. I'm just going to say it. I mean, the Lexman, if he's negative about something, he states so. If he finds there's a flaw with something, he will state so. And that's the thing. If people call him stating progression issues, booking issues as bitching, then I don't understand where they're coming from on that, because he's just stating it from a business perspective, how things would be, should be, etc. It's not really bitching. And he's talking more about the fans who are saying, oh, Justin's at the top, and just people who continuously neg on everything. Because the IWC smarks out there, they're worse than the Lexman. Because they only negative, so to speak. They don't actually do anything positive, apart from spout negativity, which is the reason why Wrestling Jesus sucks. Again, I will say it. But the fact of the matter is that the Lexman, while he will tell the IWC to calm the fuck down, because they don't stop. When they get something they want, they keep going. And they, in fact, he even said it after the Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton heel turn shit. That's what he kept saying. Good mic work did the same. The IWC are never happy, and they always want to keep going. And when people think about it and talk about it in the most sophisticated and structured way possible, they get annoyed and think, you know what, I'm just doing this the way that anyone who's got a good brain on them would analyse the company and the business and everything else in between. You know, the Lexman is doing everything what he does to combat against a inspired IWC that will never stop doing what they do. You know, and I'm the same way. You know, I write my blogs, I do these videos, I do my hour-long pay-per-views because no one else does in terms of getting full-on analysis. You know, I don't rant on something that I'm really passionate about because there's no real point. If I have a negative about something that I truly believe in, I will state it, but I will also have to balance out what I'm saying. Good YouTubers are the ones who balance their opinions. Positive, negative, and a middle ground. That is what good YouTubers are. And if people think that, oh, a lot of negatives are found, they will say the negatives, then put the positives in a bit later to highlight those negatives and say, look, this is what could be done better. You know, you could go in that direction and whatnot. I don't think he's a hypocrite. I don't really think fans like him or me or Good Mike Work or whoever are killing pro wrestling because they're just doing what they have to do. They're doing a better job than some fan analysts out there who just say, oh, this was good, but I hated this because, you know, I'm not tooting my own horn, but come on, who else does 1 hour pay-per-view reviews and goes into such analytical stuff? No IWC guy would do that. No one who's small would take on that and try and analyse it bit for bit like a sportscaster would. And the fact that these guys do the same in their shorter, condensed format in such a profound way by looking at their experience and watching the product for so many years, it makes valid sense that sometimes they may seem to bitch, but all they really are doing is posing arguments for you guys to argue about, which makes the bitching happen. You know, that's where the YouTube comes from. You take one person's opinion, contrast it with yours, and then start a war with it. I don't really have a problem with that way of dealing with things, but it has some problems. And if people think, oh, they're bitching all the time, well, I was bitching in the early part of 2011 before Money in the Bank came out. I was worried about things. Thinking, oh, I always say when pay-per-views go low and continuously stay low in ratings, there could be some problems here. But then they get vilified and rebranded under itself when things start rising again. You know, I don't find a problem with that. I really don't. They're not bitching. Analytical fans like us are good for this business and company and everything else because we see what they see, I'm guessing. And we're doing what we can to relay that to the people. Don't know why I tooted my own horn there. That's what I do sometimes. And finally, WCW 3Count123 asks, what 5 wrestlers would you like to see return to WWE, past or present in their prime, male or female? I'd like to end the wrestling section on this note, because it's useful. Yay! 5 wrestlers I would want to see return, past or present. I would have liked to see one, obviously, being Benoit, removal of all the negative shit, because, well, I would say Eddie Guerrero too. I would say Dean Malenko. I would say Lita and Trish. I've gone for 5 wrestlers who I really enjoyed. I want to see them back, 1 for wrestling purposes, 1 for diva purposes. And that's it, really. Simple. Now we're on to the personal part of the Q&A, and yes, I'm doing this in one go, everybody. Final limits. Have you ever gotten into a physical or verbal fight with one of your neighbours? No, I haven't. Because, you see, my neighbours are very nice people. I don't have a problem with any of them. So why would I have a problem with them at all? I mean, obviously, if you think about it, I had problems with my flatmates back at uni last year. So, then again, I haven't gotten any physical or verbal spats with them, so also that doesn't count too. I mean, of course, we did debate the wrestling is fake, you're a stupid douchebag argument with my next door flatmate, which I proved everything that I know spot on, and they still ridiculed me for it. You know, things like that. That's not a problem. You know, I haven't really gotten into physical fights with people. I'm not that kind of person. I mean, I know if you push me too far, bad things are going to happen, but no one's ever done that. I try and get on with as many people as I can, because if you have bad problems with people, it doesn't help, and they could fuck things over for you, and it's not a very good thing. Grey Fox, if you had to go back in time to either the 60s, 70s, or 80s, which would you choose, and what would you do for fun, as there wasn't any of the current technology back then? Well, I'd go to the 80s for one simple reason. You have the dawning of video games. That's one of the reasons why I am very jealous, so to speak, of my former comic-making friend, Tom Sweck, because he got to grow up when, one, quite fun and awesome cartoons were on television. You had music, which was pretty damn good. I mean, we may bash the 80s for all its shit, but some of the stuff that came out of the 80s music was great. Not to mention that, like I said, the dawning of early video games. Imagine, after the video game crash of 1983, you saw the resurrection of the video game industry firsthand as a kid, and you grew up with every single generation forward and had a desire to be part of it all. That's how a lot of the current guys in video gaming got it. They started because of these games. The NES on the Nintendo Entertainment in 1985 spawned their love for video games. They kept going on and forward, looked how the business rose, and then they got so smart with it, they got jobs in the sector. So you know what I mean? The 1980s, we look back on it and go, ugh, there were some awful things about it, but the 80s, I would think, would be a perfect year for me to grow up in. A perfect decade for me to be in. And I've always wanted that. But if I went back in time to the 80s as I am now, it would not be good. You see, because I would look and go, I wouldn't feel the same way that they would be feeling in the time at that point. You know, if I was going to go back in time, I would just be able to experience the actual reaction to these things. You know, I would be able to see Thriller rising to #1 and becoming the biggest selling album of all time. I'd see the MTV revolution. I would see the video game industry rise up from the ashes. I would see brilliant music being made. I would see political events that I would actually be able to see Margaret Thatcher's rule firsthand to get an opinion on it. You know what I mean? That would be something I would be happy to look at, the first-hand reaction on things. But then again, I would be apprehensive. I'd say to myself, why would I go back to the 80s? It wouldn't seem right. I'm happy where I am now, debating the same crap I'm doing now. So, yeah. But the 60s I would want to, but the one problem I would have is that, the same problem with the 60s and 70s, is that technology wouldn't be as good, TV wouldn't be as good, but the fact of the matter is, socially, I would be a lot better. You know, socially, I would be in a lot better standpoint and be able to be with a lot of people and actually have a lot of fun without using technology. So I'd be wanting to see how that would work. But the 80s, would, for me, would be absolutely perfect if I had to go back in time, because there was actually a lot of fun to be had. So, yeah. Real old Harold, this is a very general question here. What do you eat every day? I don't know, it varies from day to day. I can't really say why every day. That's really tough, actually, because you're trying to say, what specific foodstuffs do I consume on a daily basis? That's very tough, you know. I'm sorry that I can't answer this, but if it was more like, what specific food group, what is the general three-course type of meal you would eat? What kind of things do you eat per meal every day or something like that? I can't really define if it's on general question of what do you eat, because it varies so much. I mean, if you say, what is your common breakfast, you know, it's like, okay, probably some toast, maybe a bacon sandwich perhaps, something like that. That's easy for me to define. I'm sorry that I can't answer this, but a general term is not a good one. I wanted to give it a try, but I was thinking about it before I came on here. I thought, this is not easy to answer. I'm having a lot of trouble with it, that's what I was saying. Speaking of food, King Romeo asks, do you like donuts and watermelon? Donuts, I only like donuts when, one, the texture of them is right, the shape of them is right, and the fact of the matter is, the fillings and or decorational sugary toppings are perfectly good. See, donuts to me are only really good fresh out of a fryer, and they're not too big, you know? I mean, when me and my friends were at Land's End earlier in the year, there was a donut shop in the middle of the area where all the tourist stuff was, and it was freshly made right in front of us. And oh my god, it was so good! And not to mention the fact, just covered in nice sugar. It was honestly, donuts plain just out the fryer are superb. When they're not, I like ones that are not ring donuts or anything like that. I just like donuts that are filled with custard, because there is one donut I can get from Krispy Kreme, which is a chocolate glaze with custard in the centre. That pretty much sorts me out for the rest of the day, sugar-wise, if I wanted to eat donuts like that. Watermelon, I've had it before, and I'm not a big fan of it, because watermelon tips on two scales. You either have watermelon that is ridiculously sweet, and the juiciest thing you're going to eat, or there's ones with lots of seeds in that just has no real flavour to it. It's really dry. Okay, how can a wet food be dry? But it's flavourless. It doesn't make you feel happy that you're just about to tuck into some fruit. You know? Like apples and bananas make me happy to tuck into some fruit because they taste damn good. That doesn't. And actually melon generally. Melon, mango, things like that. They got a distinct sweet flavour to them. And that's what makes them quite nice. Problem with watermelon is it does vary a lot, and that's very annoying, because you have to be careful. If you pick a watermelon and it turns out to be rubbish in terms of flavour, it's going to be a waste of money for you. So, yeah. Kazuya Mishima asks, and I love the way you've done this question, do you like hot dogs, and have you ever been to any theme parks? And I love this, because you had two technical questions here, but I love because hot dogs are sold at theme parks, there's a subtle connection between the two of them, and that therefore meant you can combine them into one question. That's actually quite smart. Well done to you, Kazuya, for using your noggin, using your brain in that way to make me smile. Thank you for that. Actually, that brightened my day, because I hadn't looked at my questions on the question Q&A sheet until a couple of hours ago. So I went, that's quite cool. So thank you for that. Hot dogs, I'm very very picky about what I want to eat from a hot dog. You see, a lot of people define dogs in hot dogs as the all-beef frankfurters, and I hate those. Okay, texture-wise, with a crisp bun is fine, but because hot dogs are often sold in really soft, long buns, there isn't any difference in texture. Because while it is very meaty, as a hot dog goes, it's got a lot of meat packed in, but it's just very watery, very soft, and the texture, especially when you've got sauce on top of that, it's very mushy on the palate, and it's not very nice to have. Whilst with the Hot Sausage Company, which is a firm who are in Ipswich and Colchester, who are on the street selling hot dogs. Because hot dogs I like are ones with the sausage being all pork. Full-on, proper sausages, not those frankfurters. Those are delicious, because when you get a nice char on them, they're really crispy on the outside, and just very moist on the inside, combined with a slightly hardened, because it's been out in the open for so long, and a slightly toasted bun. The texture combination is brilliant, and that's one of the things that people don't understand, that hot dogs are actually a lot more tasty than their rubbish alternatives can be. So go out there and find a good hot dog, because it's worth it, of finding the right one that just tastes absolutely brilliant. And the thing with theme parks, actually, is that I do like going to theme parks, but over time I have been so anti going to theme parks, because when I was younger, I loved going to theme parks because bright lights and fun, but also the fact that I used to be a bit of a roller coaster junkie when I was a kid. I loved the thrill of going on roller coasters, but as the years have gone by and I've become a bit more tightly spun, and people who know me personally do know that, I don't like being scared the shit out of. I don't like having my heart race lots. I don't like thrills anymore. So, and that even says, even when intense things are about to happen on television or movies or anime or even video games, I go, ugh, I tense up and just get a bit, I don't like feeling negative feelings or thrills like that. It's really hard, and I love roller coasters. But now, when I went on at Thorpe Park on the Colossus roller coaster, where I nearly felt like I was going to fall out of the damn thing, going through an 8-looped corkscrew, it scared the crap out of me, and the Saw ride at Thorpe Park made me fall in love with roller coasters again. But I just don't like being scared and or thrilled, I don't like it. Theme parks are fantastic, but for a nice fun day out, and I enjoy them, but I just don't like being scared the shit out of. And that's probably quite sad, because I need to go to more theme parks as a day out, because I love them. But I just don't like going to theme parks to be scared the shit out of. It's not my kind of thing anymore, which I'm really sad to say, but that's what happens when you get older, you get more mature, and you just kind of lose touch with the innocence of what makes theme parks so fun. Either that, or you still enjoy them to shit anyway. Right, where are we now? Nintendo Fanboy 1988. Have you ever played on Shenmue on the Dreamcast? No. I have owned a Dreamcast for most of my life. Well, since the age of 7, and honestly, I really have not been able to get it. There's some Dreamcast games I seriously want to play, like Skies of Arcadia, but Shenmue, while I can buy it reasonably cheaply compared to some other retro games, £15 is still a lot of money. So would I want to pay for it? Probably not. But I do want to play it, because it made sandbox games what they are with the open environment. I mean, without Shenmue, GTA 3 would not have practically made it so big. Or no, was GTA 3 before it? I need to remember that. No, but Shenmue was like one of the first major open sandbox games. And it honestly is a game I need to do, because it looks pretty awesome. It's got some great nods to Sega in there. It's got a good fighting system. So as a fan of sandbox, third-person open world games, I need to play this. I mean, apparently its sequel is worth even more, so I would not want to touch it yet. Okay, where am I? Shit, I keep losing my track on my list, even though it's right in front of me. How weird this. John Kunked. Did you ever wake up in the morning feeling pain? Yes, because my back is in quite poor condition, because I don't stand up or sit in the right way, and my back is curved really, really weirdly. I have back muscle issues sometimes, and I woke up in uni earlier in the year, and I couldn't move because my back muscle tensed up to the point where I literally couldn't move. literally one of the most painful things I've experienced since my injury. Which, if I've already said, you would know what it is if you know what I'm implying to. I had it again happen recently. I slept on my back wrong, and I didn't feel any pain, obviously, in the morning. I was a bit stiff. But then once I sat down at the football game, that agony came back again. So that's the only time I've really woken up feeling utter pain. But, yeah. Kind of sucks, really, doesn't it? CKYPE. Have you ever been ridiculed or made fun of because of your straight-edge lifestyle? Yes, but not recently. I'm so pleased for this. Because back at sixth form college, I told people that I was straight-edge. And people wondered, hey Fred, do you want to go out and drink? I said, no, I don't drink, unfortunately. I'm not really fun with the club scene. They're okay with me saying that I don't like club scenes and all that. I'm fine with sticking at home and just relaxing. I'm fine with going out with people as long as there isn't too much loud music and all that shit. But they have made fun of me saying, you don't drink, Fred? What? You're such a wimp. What the hell? Drinking is awesome. Why are you not doing it? You're just so weird. So, hold on. Drinking is a part of the norm, I know, but we all have our different reasons behind things, you know. And I hated it when people thought of me as a lesser person because I didn't drink. That was really poor. You know, I don't put myself on a moral high ground because I don't drink. I just make it as another conversational thing. Simply, it is a good conversational thing, plus it also highlights the morals of why someone else drinks in the first place. Sometimes I don't understand why, and the good thing is at university there have been such a good reaction to it. I'm so happy, you know, because I don't like seeing people I know completely off their faces but they don't know what they're doing, you know. But if they want to do it, that's their own bloody idea of fun, you know. I wouldn't want to do that myself. Reason why I'm not. That's why I'm straight edge. Though actually there was this one great question. I don't know if I've actually, did I have it on here or not? Yeah, there was one question I had which I absolutely loved, which I had to answer in this question as well, because I was saying, oh, if someone was smoking around you 24/7, and I think it was from Final Limits, he was saying to me, if someone smoked around you 24/7 and you're like, fuck it, I'm going to give up my straight edge lifestyle and smoke as well, I would not do that, because what I would do is go to the law and the House of Commons and say, for fuck's sake, why are these people smoking everywhere? Even where I am, in shops where it's technically illegal. If there are people doing that, I'd be annoyed. I'd be pissed. These people are breaking the law smoking around me. I'd put no smoking signs on my house, which I would do if I owned my own place. I would say, look, no smoking here, please. You smoke, you go outside. And some people are like that, but some people are just going, oh, I'm smoking here. Let's smoke in my place. It would be an invasion of privacy, an invasion of personal space, and all that in between, you know? I would not take up smoking because I have a tolerance to go, look, if someone smokes, I'm walking, unless I know them well and I want to have a good discussion, that's fine. But if it's a person on the street or someone sitting next to me and they're smoking near me, I will walk away. Because that's what I always do. I would never start smoking because the smell is disgusting, it ruins your lungs, and mine's already been ruined by the fact I talk tons and have messed up slightly my breathing due to some nose issues, and ear just got blocked up then. But you see, I wouldn't want to smoke. Smoking is disgusting and it burns a hole in your wallet. Then again, video games burns a hole in your wallet too, so... Okay, next question. Speaking of Final Limits, this question, now I actually am happy you've answered this. I don't feel down about answering this question, because one that, again, some people are interested in. He says here, if you don't mind me asking, why did you try to commit suicide in 2007? Now, I obviously do not like the education system before you reach sixth form, or in the last couple of years of high school if you are American. Because the fact of the matter is, being told what to do and how to conform to other people's standards when you can't be yourself, to me, as a person I am, was very demoralizing for me. I absolutely hated it. And being young as I was, I had warped opinions on things. You know, I'm happy I've matured as I have, because years ago, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I was a person who did not think things through. And I was just a complete mess, because I saw things and then linked something to it and then immediately stated it was true. Like, around the same time, I was saying how France, because of course they lost the Olympic bid, they then caused problems, saying, oh, they hate us, they hate the UK for what they've done, and then of course we got bombed the next day. So I immediately thought, what the fuck, French did something, because they were too sick about losing the Olympics. Obviously, looking back, I think I acted like such a dick hating on French people for that. I really hated myself now looking back on it, because I was such a uptight, stuck-up douchebag for it. And I got into problems with a few of my teachers, because I also have anger issues at the time. I had anger issues that if I was also extremely fucking selfish, and if anything didn't go my way, or I wanted to prove myself to something, it didn't go down well. And I just hated the way the world was pressing down on me, that teachers were hating me for things that everyone else could say what they want, but then I couldn't. And I felt like the world was against me. You know, I didn't feel confident in the world we were in. And everything else was I was emotionally unbalanced. I felt my school wanted to kick me out because I was a threat to their style of everything. I didn't feel happy with the way my life was going. I didn't feel happy for the future, because I didn't really have an idea what I wanted to do. And, you know, it all just burdened down on me, where I got sunk into a depression about it. And I just nearly I had it to my throat, ready to do it. And thank God my mum and my family stopped me, because I was really a dick thinking I could do that. And I just, see what I mean? I'm happy that I've matured so much since then, and I actually think things through better now. That's why I'm happy my analysis of wrestling comes in handy, because now I overanalyze everything. And because of that overanalyzation, I can actually think things through better, whether it's out loud or in my head. So, you see, it was a very hard time for me. And I'm so happy that I went into one-to-one education and my sixth form college, because they told me, be yourself, be you. Your attitude to learning is your attitude to learning, and we will accommodate that. You know? And that made me actually find education fun for the first time in my life. That's why I did so hard. I worked my arse off to get the grades I needed to go to university and continue the strong work ethic that's been in my family for years, generations. And that's the thing. I am now so happy, even though I have anxiety issues sometimes, which can be not the best things in the world. And, you see, that's the thing. I'm in a better position now than I was back then. And I'm so happy of that, you know. It's fantastic, really. And, see, I'm not angry that you asked me this question. I'm not down about it either, Final Limits. I like answering this kind of personal question, because it makes me understand how far I've come since then, and how I'm so happy to be here, you know. Because if I was gone, you know, I would just be another statistic of teenage suicides, you know. It wouldn't have been, you know, a very, very good thing for anyone who ever knew me, you know. And I wouldn't be doing these, and you guys wouldn't have something on YouTube to watch. So, yeah, it does kind of suck, but, you know, I'm happy to still be here doing these things I love doing, and I'm really happy that I never did it. So, steam positive. And I didn't want to end the Q&A on that, so I've kept this question, which I didn't know whether to put in the wrestling or personal section, so I left it to last. From WCW 3 Count 1 2 3. What are the top 10 created wrestlers that you've made in wrestling games? Now, I'm really happy someone has asked me this, because I created creative wrestlers in every wrestling game since 2002 that I've had, which has had the medium for. Outside of Here Comes the Pain, obviously, I had a shit creative wrestling mode. And the problem is, I've only really created really good wrestlers in the last couple of games, when it's obviously improved a lot, so I can do more. I'm going to go down my top 10 now, if you don't mind, because I actually have got 10 of them, believe that. Number 10 and number 9 are a tag team that I made fairly recently, but the amount of dedication I've gone to actually think of a storyline for them and make them as unique as possible is good for me. They're called Abanyaki and Kansa. Now, they are two wrestlers who have come in, and you may think that they look a stereotype of their national culture. Well, you'd say that, but they wouldn't. They would say that this world is changing so much, so quickly, that people are forgetting about the past and forgetting about how good their cultures were before other things destroyed the foundation of their culture, and they're rebuilding it with rubbish and smut and awful things that define today's culture. And Abanyaki being Japanese and Kansa being Kenyan wanted to highlight their primal roots of their history, to highlight people, look, we're better off than you for it. So why don't you, Americans, people around the world in other countries, look at your history and be better people? And the fact of the matter is, Abanyaki being a light heavyweight, he obviously is agile, but has a very, very striking moveset. And obviously, smack kick to the face. as I call the ear bleeder, kick you in the skull, and that's that. Can't say it's basically Umaga, but Kenyan instead of Samoan, and I haven't actually probably thought of a finish for him, but it's going to be fucking disgusting in terms of how damaging it could be. You know, these two, I am very proud of how I created them, and how original I wanted a character to be, so it makes me very pleased that I created them. Number 8, Tormenta del Fuego, which is Storm of Fire in English. And actually, I named one of my coursework pieces. I actually did a screenplay on a practice screenplay for my film studies coursework in college, which was basically about some Mexican drug cartel trying to carry out their stuff. And I named it Tormenta del Fuego. I liked that name so much, I thought, I'm making a wrestler out of this. I made a cruiserweight who is 135 pounds, skinny as fuck, but has one of the coolest finishing moves I've ever created, the 720 DDT, which basically means he flips and moves around your body like a snake, and moves around 720 degrees, and then plants you with a DDT, bang, head first into the ground. The fact of the matter is, if you want to say Rey Mysterio is a true underdog, this guy is the definition, because this guy is one of those wrestlers who I made to be, one, a jobber for a while, but then once he starts winning things, it becomes so fun to see this tiny little skinny guy whoop ass and then win the world title. And to be honest with you, before I erased my E-Fed history and I'm now starting over again with 2K14, that was exactly what he did. He won a Royal Rumble match and won the world title from Alberto Del Rio. See what I mean? It's a character that defies expectations and looked damn interesting, because I would try and make mask designs as interesting as possible. Putting loads of dragon and flame-inspired designs around the mask, where it had like a mesh area around the mouth, so you could actually hear him speak, which was quite a cool thing I hadn't done with anyone else's mask for some unknown reason. So yeah, I always liked just the way I've made a cruiserweight like that. Number 7 is Jack Conrad, and I really originally made this guy as a basic heavyweight, but I had an interesting gimmick to him, because he was a silent guy. He had no mic work to do. Because he was one of those intense wrestlers who had a mean stare, went in, whooped ass, and left. And then when people wanted to hear from him, there was that mystique about him. Because he didn't obviously talk, in the storyline, he wouldn't want to speak, he wouldn't want to do anything. He would look at a guy like Josh Matthews and just intently stare at them and walk away. But then when he finally did speak, have a message of hate that would want to kill people in that regard. And I made a finishing move, and also I actually used the evil clown face, because I nicknamed him the Soul Eater for a reason. Because not only did he look fucking scary when I actually looked at the creation and shit, I've made someone look kind of terrifying. Not to mention the fact the finishing move was just as brutal. I called it the aneurysm. It was a pile driver where he got them in a tombstone position, put the hand in between the legs and pressed the guy straight down on their skull. And I have created many pile driver moves on these games, but I have never created one which actually looked like it would kill someone. And the character is so simple, yet with those little tweaks was made ever more interesting, and I'm annoyed that in my Fed I never really used him for much. He was always a mid-card bad guy who held the hardcore title loads. I never really used him for anything in my Fed. So it was interesting to see that when I actually made him champion after winning the King of the Ring, I thought, when I actually lost it, I thought, damn, I really don't use this guy much. But again, that idea behind the gimmick has made me think, you know what, I'm proud of making something so simple but so intricate in its own unique way, you know? Speaking of someone that's a bit crazy, number 6, King Crash. Now, the idea behind King Crash was quite simple. I created this guy as a cruiserweight who went to ECW and basically didn't give a shit about the sake of his own body and tore up crap. He is basically fast and furious. His finishing move needs someone in the face. Quite simple. I did actually give it one of the funniest finishing names. Too bad I can't fucking remember it. But I will when I upload when I actually create all my wrestlers in 2K14 and make my video for my CCVGP channel as part of my wrestler profile thing, I will do just that. So that'll be one thing you can look for in the future. He also had the move I do remember called Concussion City, where it was lifted up in a suplex position and then switched over from this side to this side and planted them headfirst in a DDT position, which is pretty damn cool, I would say. And I made this guy unique in the fact he stood out with the zebra pattern on all of his attire, and the fact he actually wore a mask because his face got crushed in once. So he was battered, scars everywhere, and it was just nuts. And, dogs barking. Excuse me, guys. I'm going to be back in a second. I'll edit this afterwards. Sorry about that, guys. Dog barking. Very irritating. You can't get her to stop. She just goes in here and barks. Weird. Also, good news I've just found out midway through answering that question. Wrestling has been confirmed to be on the Olympics for 2020 and forward. Kurt Angle, you're happy as fuck now, I bet. Next on my list. I got him on the last question, though. That's good. Next one, number 5, is Eddie. Now, this was inspired by the narcissist, Lex Luger, for this one. Because this character... Okay, when you were younger, obviously you used your stuffed animals to speak. Who wouldn't in the time to let your creativity go nuts? That one of those I actually had, I voiced to be a complete douche, and I used that to then make this character. And the fact of the matter is, I wanted to make this guy so much of a douche that he was the ultimate heel. He was basically a body like Chris Masters, gelled up spiked hair. Basically had these giant monkey ears that were made fun of a lot when I made my Fed. He had a power bomb, which all he did was just basically show how good he is. And honestly, had really weird shorts. I mean, like really fluorescent yellow denim shorts, which again, I made this guy look so much of a douche that it worked out so well for when I actually made my E-Fed. Mostly the look of this guy was good, but he was very tiny as well, about 5'4". So this guy, 5'5", 5'4", 5'6", didn't really look the most intimidating thing. But the one thing I did make this guy worth it was the moveset. Power bombs, massive suplexes, clotheslines, basically any major strong power move was that guy's moveset. And the power bomb lifts it. You know Kane's power bomb that he had as a finisher in the early 2000s, lifted them up, and then threw himself down and planted them. That's basically that move, and you know which one I'm talking about if you either know what that move is or look at it on the move list of WWE 13 because it's still there. And yeah, honestly, it's a wrestler who appearance alone is one of the reasons why I love that I made him, but the personality came from something that I created, but it also is inspired by an actual wrestler. So, and also, because he comes from Las Vegas, is he more stuck up at the fact that he also can gamble for shit and win, which, for the yin and yang of things, he's a douche, but he also is successful either way. So I love that contrast there, you know. It's a character that is very simple, but something I love that I developed it over time. Next is Sean Vine. Same pretense of stuffed animal personality made into wrestler applies. The problem with this one is I wanted to create a wrestler that was a heavyweight, a super heavyweight, who was 7 foot tall, but was agile as fuck. Now, how would I be doing that exactly? Let me just say, when you in the old games, when you could give super heavyweights moonsaults and springboards, that did the business for me. Now, it was very basic appearance, but the idea that I gave a big super heavyweight a moveset like that is great. But one of the brilliant thing is, the rest of his moveset that wasn't high-flying moves or high-impact power moves was that he had every single suplex in the book. And I loved that. I wanted to find an excuse to look at these suplexes and use them. You know, I wanted to use all those suplexes because I didn't know which ones to give to certain wrestlers. I thought, why not stick them all in one wrestler? And I did. And I'm very happy that I did. And the storyline with this wrestler I did actually have is that me, FT, broke the guy's neck, and then he has a massive broken heart Shawn Michaels tattoo right where his neck broke. And I'm using that as a storyline for the upcoming game. And I think that because he's going to be returning from injury for the first time in 6 years. So that'll be something cool to see. Shawn Michaels, get your damn heart out. Speaking of which, that makes some sense. Number 3 is me. Me. It's FT. Yeah, that's right, that's me. I'm number 3 on my own bloody created list. Whoop-de-frickin' do. I just love the fact that I was able to make myself. Do I even need to say that I had to be so selfish that I put myself on a list like this? Kinda sucks, I know. But, I just love the fact that I make myself as aggressive and as hard-hitting moveset-wise as possible. That's the only reason. Because I put myself in more storylines than any I could ever say. I'm winning a 50-time world championship. belt motion is great for me. You know, I have to say that I'm happy with how I made my wrestler look. I made it look so average, but then when it came to moveset, I kicked a lot of ass. Yay! Number 2, and this is a big one, the entire Di Matteo family, because I made the best thing I could do is every wrestling fed needs a family, right? This is something I've created from my first game onwards. From WrestleMania 19 onwards, I have created this entire family of wrestlers, and I've just given them different personalities, different stuff. And let me just, I've actually added to it. Now, usually what happened is I'd have one or two of them per game, and that'll be it. But this upcoming game, all of them will be included, depending on what kind of creator wrestler move pool we get. If we get 50, I have to limit some. If not, I'll be fine with having them all in, female and male. And you know, they all have different, they're all different weight types, they're all different move types. They're all different personalities, some being douchebags, some being honourable, some just being the fact that they're so intent on destruction they will do it, and then some. And of course the patriarch of the family, this 74-year-old who's in storyline terms got screwed over by Vince McMahon in the 80s, and then made his entire family want to stop him. Which is exactly what happened, when I've now got my own E-Fed for it. You see, this family of wrestlers has taken me so much time to craft a history for them, and create all the different people in such a unique way that they actually look similar to one another as well. That's even more difficult, you know? And that's why I'm so proud of making the whole thing, is because it took me a lot of time to understand, one, what made all of them unique in their own way, and second, what has made me to say, look, I can actually create wrestlers en masse who are different from each other. And that's what's important, you know? And finally, my last one. My number 1 is, I have always said to myself, this is the best one I've ever created. Design, move, and storyline-wise, I have not created a wrestler that to me has been so perfect when I've used it. And that is Spitfire. And I think some people I know may have pointed out this when I talked about creative wrestlers on my Skype discussions. Rico, you probably have heard of it. Spitfire for me was a way of showing what can I do to create the most demonic looking character possible without making it look cliched and shit. Now, originally when I created him, he had a mask with a skull face on it. And he still does have a spiked orange mohawk. Combine that with scars all over his body, barbed wire tattoo on one arm, and barbed wire and an orange sun and flame boots with tights and all that. That, to me, made him look like he's been through a shit ton of wars, and then some. And I made his moveset be as destructive as it could be for a 5'2" cruiserweight, where he had high strength, high speed, and meh tag team skills, and some submission moves which could kick the shit out of anybody. And I made the Towering Inferno, which is a top rope pile driver, as you guys know from the games. The fact of the matter, reason why I'm so happy with this character is I modified him and he still was as awesome. When the hair couldn't come through the mask anymore, thank you SmackDown vs. Raw 2011, you bastard, I had to improvise and come up with the reason of why he couldn't have the mask on anymore. Has the mask removed and the skull is tattooed on his face. Pretty damn sweet, right? And not to mention, adding that extra bit of storyline initiative, he's blind. But then again, I've actually reversed that, and I made it come out that he isn't, to make people go, look, you know what, I may be small, I may have been blind, but I've been beating your asses. Enough said. The fact of the matter is, the fact that when I actually make this guy, I have Spitfire by The Prodigy as his theme song, to fit with the fact that it's actually quite a scary and spooky theme as well, to go, an intense theme, to go with the flames, the dark lighting, just the evil look of this guy, and I give him the motions where he just looks scary. And I've used him for all kinds of things. I used him as a way of retiring Rey Mysterio, that a cruiserweight wanted to come in and literally get rid of him. I've done bits where Shawn Michaels got buried alive in a feud, and then they actually, when I simulated the computer match, had a 30-minute tables match which was back and forth. So, Spitfire visually, storyline conceptually, and moveset wise, and I've had Shining Wizard, Ice Side DDT, Top Rope Pile Driver, and everything else in between used as a big move for him. It hides my reasoning behind creative expressionism through this form. Great use of moveset to personify a character, and the idea of just having a character which is so unique to me that I created it. And I'm so pleased that I did, because it so embodies what I love about the Creator Wrestler mode. You can make anything you damn want. Some people like creating the other wrestlers and putting them on community creations, having feds with these guys in there to put their own fantasy rosters in. That's all well and good. But I love creating my own fed to make my own spin on it, so when I commentate on it, I don't have to worry about pre-existing storyline crap, you know? And that's what's brilliant. Spitfire is the shining light of all the creative wrestlers I have done, because every time I look at it and go, that is so cool, and that is that. Whew, it's gone a bit longer than I thought. And guys, hopefully you are satisfied with this Q&A. I apologise that I've had to again edit things, but this would have gone for over 2 hours plus if I'd answered every question. It could have even gone 3 hours plus. I haven't got the time, so it's mostly for time constraints. But I really hope you guys understand that, you know? I really do. And if you like this, click the like button down there. Click the subscribe button as well if you haven't done so already, to get more content, weekly content coming up. Yay! I mean, I will do that Friday flashback this week. I'm hating myself I haven't done that yet. But I've got some days this week where I'm not doing too much, so it should be good to give it a shot. And guys, honestly, have a fantastic week. And now the wrestling is confirmed back in the Olympics. We are going to be happy. Everyone's going to be happy, because now everyone's going to make a video on it. I might make a video on it in the week after I've had a little read up on why it was picked, etc. So you know what, guys? This Q&A has been fun for me to do. I won't be doing one this month, because this one's coming in this month. I'm going to be moving down to university on the 19th. I am not going to be in the best mood to do a Q&A, especially knowing that I don't know how long it'll take for us to get the internet set up as well. So that may be slightly problematic. So that's why I'm happy I've got my blog. So yeah, that's going to be slightly problematic. So I'll do a Q&A in October. I will give you guys a date when that is due, and they'll give you all a lot of time to submit questions. So go on, submit your questions now. It is open. Once you get to the end of this video, you can submit your questions. I have been Cream Crazy. You've been people watching. This has been my August/early September Q&A video. And I will see you guys next time. Cheers! Oh, fuck you, YouTube. Now I've got to do my credits myself as well. Go to all my social media links: Twitter, Skype, Blogspot, and Facebook. All the links will be in the description box if you want to click on them. Also, subscribe to my CCVGP video game playthrough channel. The content I have done is editing at the minute, and it should be up by the time next week comes around. And also, guys, remember this: Cream Crazy Wrestling Rant, representing professionalism in the YWC since 2010. All opinions are of Cream Crazy and are not affiliated with any organisation.